Gamerville by Johnnie Christmas. First chapter Friday, graphic novel read aloud video, and author interview with Amanda Zieba, the word nerd, and Johnnie Christmas. Let me tell you a little bit about this story. Max Lightning is howling at the moon. He's finally qualified for Gamerville, the championship where players compete to be top dog in the multiplayer video game Lone Wolf of Calamity Bay. But his dreams of domination are doomed when his parents send him to Camp Reset. Gone are the long nights of downing energy drinks and copious amounts of screen time. They've been replaced with fresh air and group activities under the hot sun. A shock to the system for a lone wolf like Max. Can Max escape Camp Reset and level up at Gamerville? Or has he finally played his last match? Let's find out in Gamerville by Johnnie Christmas. Be sure to stick around after Chapter 1 to listen in on an interview with the author and illustrator Johnnie Christmas. And now, Chapter 1, called Game Over. Actually, Level 1. Real quick before we begin the story, I want to let you know that words that you see inside of a yellow rectangle are narration. They're things that the character is thinking. Things in a white speech bubble are things that they're saying out loud. We enter this city scene at night, and we see the narration bubble say, "My name is Max. I love video games." Then we zoom into a window and we can see a boy sitting at a desk with some computers, and he's saying, "Come on, come on." We zoom in closer and we can see that Max is really concentrating. The narration takes over and he's telling us, "When I grow up, I'll play video games whenever I want, day or night. I'll play them all. Taffy Tour, Sassy Birds, but the best game ever is Lone Wolf of Calamity Bay." We see now a view from Max's computer and him describing his favorite video game. Calamity Bay is sinking. My character, Watson J. Wolf, an outcast on a mission of redemption. My mission, save Calamity Bay's treasures before the city sinks. The more treasure I save, the more glory I get. The game is boundless. Underground lairs, secret passageways, fun catchphrases. In this game, there's nowhere I can't go, nothing I can't do. I got it in the bag, says the wolf, Watson J. Wolf. I spend my hours planning my strategy. Why? Because I want to be Calamity Bay champion. Once a year, the top contenders face off at the Gamerville video game tournament. And my hard work is starting to pay off. I just qualified for semifinals. Whoa! I'm one step away from my dreams coming true. The next morning. Maxwell, time to get up. We can see that he's fallen asleep in his gaming chair, sitting up. "Did you fall asleep while playing again?" his mom says. "Mom, no one's allowed in the cove without permission." More like cave, Mom says. But in real life, Mom makes all the decisions. Mom says, "Your clothes are laid out on the bed you didn't sleep in." She decides what I wear. This is what a little kid would wear. Newsflash, you are a little kid. What I eat? "Mom, I just made the semifinals." "Well, I just made oatmeal and it's getting cold." And we can see them entering the kitchen where Max's dad is also sitting at the table eating breakfast. Max takes a seat for breakfast and his dad says, "Look what's come out of the cave." "The cove, Dad, Max's cove." "Fear not, sunlight and fresh air, cave dweller. They will strengthen you." "Very funny, Dad," Max says. And his mom says, "Come on, Maxwell, we're going to be late." She even decides where I go. The next page is a view of Max's city. My real world is full of boundaries, borders, and barriers. My mom homeschooled me for the last few years, but now I'm back at school. She's kind of nervous about the outside world, but I'm not. I don't think. "Have a good day. Love you." "Love you too, Mom." Kids across the street from Max's school are laughing as his mom says goodbye. And then as he's walking into school, they continue teasing him. "I love you, Maxwell." And then there's a kid standing off to the side. He's got a hooded sweatshirt on and he's eating some snacks. And Max tells us that's Wilder. Wilder says, "Mama's boy." And Max says, "Zip it, Wilder." He's the reigning champ of the under 13 division of Lone Wolf of Calamity Bay. He lives the charmed life. No one tells him what to do, what to wear, or where to go, as free as a wolf in the wild. He's practically an adult, and I'll be the same when I'm the champion. Wilder says the Calamity Bay catchphrase, I've got it in the bag. The next scene we see is at Video Game Club. An aspiring champion needs the right attitude. A would-be winner picks out his own clothes in the morning. Yes, I know, I'll design my new look, Max thinks. Oh ho ho boy, I'm gonna look so cool. Yeah, so cool. Too cool. And then all of a sudden, Max doesn't start to feel so well. And he thinks, oh no, not another dizzy spell. And that's where we're going to leave our character Max at the end of chapter 1, wondering about what his life is going to be like. Is he going to be able to play as many video games as he wants? We know that's not true because his parents are going to swoop in. So, speaking of swooping in, let's head over to our interview and let Johnnie Christmas, the author and illustrator of this book, swoop in and tell us some behind the scenes stuff. Readers, we're in for a treat today. We are here with the author and illustrator of Gamerville, Johnnie Christmas. Johnnie, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you about this book. And I would like to know, first of all, what was your story spark for Gamerville? What was the thing that got you rolling on this story?
So I was thinking about technology. It was just kind of in my head. Interesting thing about Gamerville is that I sent in the pitch for Gamerville before swim team. So the ideas for it were in my head for a lot longer. And I was thinking about technology and our relationship to technology. We all have a very unique but also very common relationship with technology, it seems.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was thinking it'd be cool to do a story about technology, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be um, in what form? Internet, apps, video games, surveillance technology, I wasn't sure. And I remember at one point I came up with an idea about like these kids in a town that was cut off from technology. And then it just, I was playing with all these ideas of technology. And then I just thought back to when I was a kid, I really loved video games like a lot. And and I was just thinking about like if that eventually I had to stop because I was getting this kind of motion sickness kind of thing with it.
Yeah.
Um, so I was thinking, oh yeah, like that was what if it was more jarring, like the being pulled
Yeah.
away from the video game world. So that those thoughts about technology and gaming, then I was thinking, well, if a gamer was sent to summer camp, that'd be really
Ooh.
jarring. That'd be, and how do you have that? How do you show the relationship between those two worlds without denigrating or demonizing any of the worlds? Because gaming is a valid form of entertainment, storytelling. But also we're all doing this dance with technology where we're getting maybe a little bit too much of it in our lives than we'd like. So how do you show that? So that was a spark, just a bunch of this grab bag of ideas centering around technology and our relationship to it.
Yeah, and I love that because it's so relatable, right? We all have that. It's present in our life, and even as adults, like we struggle with like how much is too much, and so yeah, a great things that make you go are a good spot to start a story.
Yeah, they don't leave you alone, which is great because then you
Mm-hmm.
come back to them.
Yeah, or like the books or movies that you watch where like you keep thinking about like, well, what if they would have, what if they would have done this or that? Yeah, yeah, definitely sticks with you. You had briefly mentioned something about like two worlds, like the camp world and the gamer world. But even within the gamer world, there is another world of Calamity Bay, which is the video game that the main character is very good at and he loves to play. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about what was it like to make a made-up world inside of a realistic fiction story?
It was very hard because every time because the game had to be very entertaining in and of itself because I wanted readers to think like I'd like to play that game
Yeah.
and see why Max really likes this game. But also I wanted the world of the game to echo the lessons that Max was learning in the real world and some of the things
Hmm.
that his friends were going through as well. So every time I made a change to the real world or to Calamity Bay, I kind of had to make a change to the other one. It was
Yeah.
Gamerville's kind of like a there was like four different worlds in this book. There was like his normal world before he goes to camp, the world of
Mhm.
camp, the world of the video game, and then the world of like all that comes,
Yeah.
with his adventures of trying to leave camp. Does he get to the tournament? Does he not? That enters a whole other space. So every time anything changed in one of those areas, I had to kind of
Hmm.
change things in another. So it was like writing four different stories within one story that felt like one story.
Yes.
Um, but but also within the Calamity Bay element of it, I got to throw in all these things that I thought was interesting about, you know, um, being the togetherness and there's like uh there's like environmental things in there also. Not
Yeah.
that I was like hitting it super hard, but just kind of like, oh, well, what would make the city, and it kind of wrote itself, like what would make a city sink? Well, there's lots of things
Yeah.
that'll make a city sink.
Yeah.
So these messages and not even really messages, observances of the world we're living in, and which is the same world Max is living in, and having that echo in the world of Calamity Bay, this unreality that he's immersed in before he goes to the other unreality of summer camp,
Yeah.
because it's not really the real world either, which gives
Right.
him insight to like, oh, if I could beat a video game because it's not real, maybe I could beat summer camp because it's not real either. There's rules to this
Right.
that I can kind of figure out. People have made up these rules too. So it was really interesting writing challenge coming up with Calamity Bay and getting it to fit.
Well, I loved it. I'm a sucker for a treasure hunt, so you had me there. Um, would you personally rather hang out at Camp Refresh or play video games?
Hmm. I, I would say I would hang out at the camp now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just because it'd be like nice and quiet and you can
Yeah.
kind of stare off into space. That's kind of one of my main hobbies now, staring off into space. Um, but the excitement of the video game would be really cool. Just being in that kind of like if I didn't get sick while playing them.
Right.
Um, so I'm gonna give it to the camp.
Give it to the
Sunshine,
camp.
daylight, nice air, breezes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty views. That's the lake, all that sounds really good. Um, what would your best revision tip be? So much of what I think we teach kids in school about writing is about drafting or about idea generation. But really, uh, many authors say that they spend way more time revising, and illustrators spend way more time revising. So, what do you think would be your best revision tip for anybody out there who is looking to make a piece better?
Right on. I would say that I find that writing is rewriting. It's been said, and I find it to be true, where I write a mountain of stuff, and then I
Hmm.
just kind of narrow down to it's a process of winnowing out what's not it. It's
Okay.
I think of like a sculpture or something. Like you go to I don't know if any of you out there listening have been to any of those fancy parties that have like those swan ice sculptures or anything like that.
Oh
I have not
yeah.
get invited to
Yeah.
them. But you just kind of think of
I have a friend Trevor who that's his job is like he's an ice sculptor. He makes the swans.
right. So I would imagine what Trevor does is he forms a huge block of ice, right? So when
Mhm.
I'm writing everything that comes to mind. I'm just like just putting it all out there. And then as I'm working it over, every time I go to that block of ice, I kind of try to shave away everything that's not swan. I try to like just kind of remove a little bit of that and oh yeah, that kind of looks a little bit better. Maybe a curve here, maybe a curve there. And you're slowly removing the things that you've from what you've added. So
Mhm.
because you're not quite sure what the thing is going to be, you start with the theme, oh, technology, apps, video games. But the more you go, the more the story tells you what it is.
Mhm.
Tell you what the theme is. You know what got you on the road. Okay, kid, video game tries to get away, but what's it
Mhm.
about? You know, and you find that through shaving away the ice, and it starts to kind of reveal itself as to
Yeah.
what it is. Stephen King, the great author, had this one thing where he talks about rewriting and drafting. He said he writes his first draft for himself. That's him telling himself the story because he doesn't really know the
Okay.
story. He kind of knows something that interests him. So he's just writing like it's almost like story time for oneself. And then his second draft, he's writing it for someone else to understand it. Then he's trying to
Okay.
shape it for a thing. But for the first part, you're just kind of trying to entertain yourself to the end of the story. And then
Yep.
by the you're like, okay, and you read it again and you go over it and you're like, oh, I've noticed that they mentioned family like three times in this. I didn't know this was about family, but the characters keep telling me it's about family. All right, maybe
Hmm.
if I strengthen the family theme or reduce some of the other things that I thought were interesting, but I only kind of mentioned it once, put those to the
Hmm.
side, but amp the family and take a look at it again now. Okay, oh, that really worked, the family thing. Or maybe I'll strengthen
Yeah.
that a little more. And then slowly it starts shaping itself into to what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we go back in with with the cloth and give it the final polish so it can really shine. I love that. Thank you. My last question for you is what do you hope readers take away with them after they have read Gamerville?
Well, I would say that connection's important. It's uh it's one of those themes of the book that I didn't know was there.
Hmm.
I thought it was just gonna be fun, video game fun. And then I noticed that the theme of the story as it started to become revealed, like a swan, was connection, not digital connection, but human connection, and
Hmm.
how what happens when you have it and what happens in the absence of it. Max's world looks very different when he's playing video games all the time, because he's actually trying to make connections through his digital world, like through people that he meets online and by being good at it. So he's reaching for the right thing. But when he goes to camp, he starts realizing that there's kind of another way to do that with people in the real world. And it feels a little different. It puts him on a different path. It makes him a little more pro-social, as they call it, like you're doing things for the human,
Hmm.
for the betterment of others even.
Yeah.
So I would say connection is kind of what I want readers to think about, even when you're in any of the worlds you live in, whether they be digital or real world,
Hmm.
um, to just kind of lean into other people and hear each other out, have a laugh, like be in the same space with each
Yeah.
other. And um and sometimes people aren't going to say everything that you agree with, and sometimes you'll disagree. And sometimes that opens up the space for very interesting conversations as well. Like, well, why do you think that? Or, okay,
Hmm.
well, I never saw it that way. And in that way, we kind of, much like that block of ice, we get a better understanding of ourselves as well. We start seeing like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like when I hadn't thought about it that way, but now that I'm talking to so and so, let me examine that. And maybe so and so is completely wrong, but at least you've examined it. Like you've taken a look at
Right.
it and go, okay, now I know for sure that's not correct, or now I know that that's something maybe I'll take a look at. So
Yeah.
Lena, let's human
Yeah.
connection. Let's
And
connect.
even though we're like more connected than ever with these, like we're not really getting there on a deeper level. So I think that that's a great lesson for all of us to learn. And I definitely, that is something that I took away from this book. So thank you so much for this story and also for sharing your time with us today. Do you want to, or could you tell us anything that you're working on next? And also, if readers have another question that I didn't ask and they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Sure. The thing I'm working on next is another middle grade graphic novel,
Yay.
and it's going to be focused on basketball. I love basketball. I am terrible at it. I would always get picked because I'm tall, but the love for it's there, no matter how
Yeah.
just my skills are. So I wanted to do a story about middle schoolers and basketball, and another kind of team book with
Yeah.
kind of, swim team had team elements, but this one's even more interconnected because they're on the court together, passing the ball and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So that's been really fun to write. I've been having a blast, and they can find me at JohnnieChristmas.com, Johnny with an IE. I'm
Okay.
also on Instagram at Johnny XMAS, again with the IE.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you Google Johnny with an IE,
Yeah, I can link those. I can link
yeah,
those.
I'm easy to
Okay,
find.
my sons would not be happy if I let you go without asking, do you have a favorite basketball team?
Oh, you're gonna get me into trouble. I'm gonna go with the hometown crowd. I grew up in Miami, Florida, so we're gonna go with the Heat.
Okay.
I like that they
Okay.
have blue collar feel. They
Yeah.
get after. They don't have like a whole raft of big stars. They have enough big stars,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
they're a work team. They work. I love them.
Okay. I could maybe say the same about the Bucks. I'm from Wisconsin, so Milwaukee's. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you got big
I thought
stars.
you were gonna say, isn't there's a team from Canada, right? The
Rap,
Raptors?
yeah, the
Yeah,
Raptors
and
are.
yeah, a kid from my hometown played on that team too. So like everybody here, like they say the Bucks are the Raptors. So, anyways, thank you. Books and basketball, like two of my favorite things. Appreciate you, Johnny, and readers. Thank you so much for joining us for this First Chapter Friday video. We hope you'll come back again for more great stories. See you next time. Happy reading.
Take care.
To continue reading Gamerville by Johnnie Christmas, pick up a copy from your school library, purchase one from your favorite local indie bookstore, mine is Birdie's Books, or from Amazon. Put the link below for you. Then be sure to check out the rest of the First Chapter Fridays on my playlist. I've got more than 180 waiting there for you. Thanks so much for visiting my channel. Please like this video and subscribe, and then come back again for more First Chapter Fridays, brain breaks, direct instruction videos, and more. Happy reading! I'll see you again next time.